Hey, this is Jim Malcolm with Humanized Technologies, and I am back again with the fabulous Peter Simcoe. Peter, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. It's great to be here again, and today we're actually in the Lake District in
I
Cumbria, in
gotta say,
England.
every time we come into spaces, we end up going to amazing places. So this is not where we could find like the Loch Ness or anybody like that,
There's no
right?
Loch Ness in there, although I'm sure there's a few. I'm sure there's a few critters in there, but no, this is Cumbria. It's on the way to Scotland, so you're on the way to finding the Loch Ness monster, but we're not quite that far north in England yet. So yeah,
Okay.
this is about a week ago, and actually, what's quite nice about this is it wasn't sunny. You actually get quite a dark. I combined several photographs. I took an exposure for the sky, and then combined it with some other exposures and produced quite an interesting sort of brooding sky there that goes with the interesting skyline. And I was thinking when I was taking this, incidentally, that if it was bright and sunny, you'd actually have really harsh shadows everywhere. So it would look great, but it actually works well when you've got a fairly sort of flat, when you've got fairly flat light on it with the grey sky. And if you get the sky nicely exposed, it really can be, a pretty nice image, even though it was effectively quite a dismal Sunday afternoon. So yeah.
Yeah, so not getting too technical, and we can talk about all this kind of stuff later
Yes.
on. But a lot of times when you have bright sun and dark shadows, right, the dynamic range or the range between your brightest spot and your darkest spot is so great that
Mm-mm.
it's really hard to compress it. But when you have overcast, you have less of this dynamic range difference, and you can get a better overall exposure.
Yeah.
But we've got some tools we could talk about later too, with like things like DNG and manual controls that will help
Yes.
all of that. But we can get to that later on.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So what have you been doing in the last few weeks, Jim?
So I've been busy on a couple of different projects here in the States. I think probably the most exciting thing for me is I've just started launching a series of 3 blog posts
Right.
where I'm talking about doing time lapse. Or what we actually refer to as multi-lapse in
Right.
headset. So, although I'm not going to talk about that today because we haven't released all 3 of those episodes,
Okay.
next time we
Okay.
get together, we'll go back into that whole conversation. But watch on the Humanized blog, where we'll start talking about multi-lapse video and how to basically play with time
Hmm.
in a VR headset or in 360.
Where's the views? Where's the Human Eyes blog? Where can they read
You know
about it?
what? So they can go to views.camera.
Okay.
I think it's this one here, right?
It's
I have
on.
it on
Yes,
there.
right there, right on your T-shirt.
There you go. Yep. And then just hit on the blog and you'll start to find stuff in there. If you haven't signed up for our email yet, make sure you sign up and then you'll get notifications when new blog posts come, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
But
Great.
for us, it's about trying to continue to educate the market, help people to understand how to use the tools, and do all the amazing and magical things that you've been able to do with the
Oh,
cameras.
right. Thank you very much. Yes, it is useful to read blogs because you find out, and even like the Facebook user group, because you find people doing so many different things that you didn't know the camera could do, and so it's an important part of people's daily reading, really, or weekly reading, just to keep up with, what are the manufacturers doing, who've they been in touch with. And it's it's a useful way to keep in touch with what's happening out there with the Views camera, with any camera really. So yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, you know what I want to do? I don't want to throw you under the bus for this because it all comes down to making sure you have a camera with you and using it when you have it. So I'm
Ah,
not going to throw you under the bus, but I'm
yeah,
going
I
to
know
throw
where you're
you
going.
underneath the I'll throw you underneath the Lamborghini for a minute
Okay. Yeah.
because what an amazing car that you got to drive in Barcelona.
Ah.
And just why don't you gloat about that for a minute? Because I just have to live vicariously through you.
Well, I got to drive. I went to Barcelona for about 6 days, and if you ever go there, in the shopping centre, you can hire a Lamborghini for about 70 euros. So there's me and the little Lamborghini. Well, not so little Lamborghini, actually. The only thing I would say is driving for the first time on the right and driving a massive 510 brake horsepower sports car is quite a challenge when you're driving around the harbour area of Barcelona. So that's all I'll say. You might, by the time you actually get used to the width and the size of the car, your 25 minutes is up. But it was fun. It was fun, and yeah. However, off
For about
camera,
60 pounds, so about 60 pounds, $25, and you get to drive around.
yes, yeah. Carefully, very carefully, and you might want to, but you have to show your license. And there was somebody sitting in. Actually, I think I'll show some video after anyway. But there was someone sitting in with me as well from the company, just to make sure, one, I didn't drive off into the sunset, but also he was very helpful, and he helped me sort of navigate some of the traffic. As I explained to him, it was my first time driving on the right in a 510 horsepower vehicle. So yeah. And Jim, off camera,
you had to shift with the right hand.
No, it was paddles. It was paddles or automatic,
Okay.
and I put it on
paddles.
automatic.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Okay.
it was flappy paddles on the steering wheel, or it was automatic. But I'll be honest, it's
Nice.
it didn't feel that refined. I mean, I guess that's what these sports cars are about. But it felt quite sort of rough and ready. It reminded me. I'd like to say it reminded me of my old MX-5. I used to have an MX-5 Mark 1 with pop-up lights. I don't even think this has got pop-up lights. So, the MX-5 had something on it, but it was very raw, and it felt like you were driving a cart round a sort of karting track. But yeah, a lot of fun. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the only grief that I'm giving you is
I know.
use a 360 camera next time. Come on.
I know. So I created some video. It was actually the security video they give you at the end, and it was just here. But there's a whole body to sort of put the views or similar camera on, and
I'm sure they'd have no problem with you mounting a suction cup to the $250,000 paint job.
Absolutely, yeah. So hopefully, when you take the suction cup off, it doesn't pull off any of the paintwork. But we'll leave that for you to experiment with. It's So yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, great
So
fun.
that was that.
All right, so you've been traveling. You went out to Barcelona,
Yes.
and I also happen to know that you also found your way into the city of London, right into downtown,
Yes.
for something called Views of London, which we recently hosted out there.
Yes,
And we brought in a bunch of influencers and vloggers and filmmakers or whatever. And people got to experience the Views camera and, quite frankly, 360 or even VR 180 for the first time.
Yes.
And so I got two questions for you. One is, of course, how was the experience? We'll get there later. But more importantly is, when you met people who are experiencing for the first time what you're doing with the technology for a long time, were there any insights that you saw or anything that you learned that was interesting?
I think the day was really, really interesting on several levels. I think it was interesting to see people, opening the Views camera for the first time and wondering and asking questions. What can you do with this? How do you operate this? What happens with this? But what was interesting in terms of my own personal experience was I saw people using the Views camera in a way that I hadn't before, and that was to take the output and use it in a way that it's not the end output of video is not in 360 or 3D. It's actually converted, take the whole 4K picture and convert it for something that can be played on a TV. So it becomes a HD video where after the event you can go back and you can select the part of video you wanted. And that's something I haven't really experimented with very much at all in terms of all the 360 cameras and 3D cameras, also all that sort of thing that I've had. So for me, it was great to see people experimenting on that level, because it was inspirational to me, but it also, seeing them do that, added another kind of tool to my toolbox in terms of the way that I create content, both on a personal project level but also professional level. So if you wanted to give almost the impression of a drone, say you put on a selfie stick or one of the extension sticks, or even two of them. I mean, I saw there was one guy who was attaching 2 or 3 kind of sticks together and then holding the camera right up in the air. And suddenly it creates, brand new camera angles and brand new effects, and this very stable video that you get from, the Views XR, for example, where the stabilization will create a very smooth video of a selection of that entire video that you captured, and it was very inspirational. On a separate note, I mean, it was really interesting to meet influencers. I spent time in the design world. I spent time, with different clients, manufacturers, different people. So it's an entirely different world, and I'm normally the media producer for them. Suddenly, you're talking to people who also are in media and are dealing, with huge audiences of millions actually, and huge numbers of views. When I say views, spelt with an IEWS, on their YouTube channel and that kind of thing. And it was a really interesting insight to how these people operate, what their agenda is, what their motivation is, and what their inspiration is. So yeah, it was a very interesting day.
So aside from just the 360 and VR and stuff like that, did you walk away with new inspiration or insights that you can apply to your business?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. The 2D sort of HD 2D video that people were experimenting with. Yeah, I'm absolutely looking for that opportunity now with manufacturers and well, not so much looking for the opportunity, but I know it's there if I get, if there's a need to create a stable shot that's higher up, or with the experiments that I did on the day, and I actually have a couple of videos from the day. I felt like I'd learned something new, so it was very valuable as a day, and it was very interesting. And I met some of the Views team as well. I met some of the Human Eyes team. Met Raz, met Mike, Eugene. Yep. Eugene helped me with the video last summer, which it was the journey. He was helping me with some of the green screen stuff. Yeah. So I'd already had a bit of contact with him via video connection, but yeah. So it was nice to meet those guys as well, and it was a very enjoyable day.
Awesome, that's a great. I mean, it's the fun thing about Human Eyes as a company is we've just got great people to work with and stuff like that around the world. So, this is a call out to everybody that's watching now. If you want to get involved with us and spend some time learning more about the category and everything, just reach out, put in comments down below, send us an email. We love to learn from what you're doing, but we also want to help you build the things that you want to do as well. So we'd be happy to work on that kind of stuff with you. In fact, I'm working on a blog series right now about multi-lapse video, which is kind of a new form of time lapse, and I won't get into all the details, but next time I come on, I'm going to share with you some of this 2D work as well as some time lapse work and everything, because what you can do during that playback, so I can make a time lapse of a sunset, for example, and then I can apply a very slow kind of little zoom or pan on that. So what happens when you play it back is it looks like you had either a zoom adjustment or you had a some sort of a slider that's moving the video so to end, and you get this extra dimension out of the video. So awesome stuff, and really cool things to talk about. We'll do more of that next time.
Would you like to see a couple of the videos from the day? From the views of the day? Okay. What we'll do is let's just drag our camera around and we can see the screen. Let's just put...
This is like theater in the park, right? So we're going to put the screen out by the trees and off we go.
So this is Ali Law. And as you can see, for me, this was the first experiment I did. Let's just leave this looping for a bit. What's interesting about this video is that I had the camera in my hand, but you can't really see what's going on there. You can't see... The selfie stick or the extension stick, whatever, is invisible in the shot. And that's a really interesting thing because it just looks like I'm running along. It doesn't look particularly odd. But then what I've done is captured a little bit of that, but then also selected a sort of really wide panoramic view of Ali Law, slowed it down in After Effects. And there's a little bit of pixelation occurs, but that's down to After Effects more than anything else. It just creates an interesting shot. That was down near Carnaby Street, famous street in London. So Ali and the crew were causing mayhem there for a bit, putting extensions on extensions and running around. And
if you've ever looked at his, go to his site and watch his videos and stuff.
Yes.
He's one of those guys that make my palms sweat because he goes up on tall buildings and jumps off and does all kinds of stuff that I simply don't have the courage to do.
Well, as I said, there was Ali, and then there was James Kingston. I think James Kingston is his name, and spent the morning with him. And as I said, he explained what he did. I didn't appreciate who he was at first. He said what he did, and I said, "Oh, you're one of those guys that makes me sick on Facebook." But not in a bad way, as in, it's amazing what you do, but I just can't watch it for very long without feeling really, really ill. Basically, this guy will hang off cranes, he will lean over tall buildings and do all sorts of stuff that I couldn't really, wouldn't dare to do. Same with Ali Law. I mean, again, these guys are pretty out there in terms of what they post on their YouTube channels. You were going to say something, Jim. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say that next time you're leaning over a bridge or looking off of something, next time we come on, I'll give you some shots out of a hotel window.
Yes.
That I did, which is really kind of fun.
Yeah.
So that was a fantastic example of taking 360 and turning it into 2D.
Yes.
Now, the one thing I did want to point out on that particular video was, you don't need to put it back up, is that, you can put it up if you want, that's fine. But in that case, you chose to use a very wide angle, right?
Yes.
But you could have just cropped in also to just a small part and track his action as well. I actually like this cinematic effect because it allows me to show everything that's going on. I love the sun back there in the background and everything. And when you slowed it down, but that's the magic of being able to capture everything in your shot and then turn it into a 2D. And I was working with somebody yesterday who called this a flatty.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
You can output a flatty, kind of that old school stuff for social media or Facebook Space, not Spaces, but Facebook Stories, Instagram, those types of things. Really fun.
Yeah.
So good example.
Yeah. I mean, again, without adding too much unnecessary detail, I did want to make sure some of these little lamps and things were in. My ego dictated that I should probably be in the shot as well, just as a matter of interest, actually, because just to show the camera, wasn't, or the selfie stick wasn't visible. So it was a bit of fun and just trying that out and seeing partly how wide you could get the sort of video to appear without it looking odd or being uncomfortable to view. And
good point. Before you get to that awful that awfully wide fisheye effect. So and that selfie stick, we actually call that the magic selfie stick because the stick seemingly disappears. So
okay.
It makes it basically is like a floating camera, and you're right. Put some extensions on it, and next thing you know, in fact, this last time I was in New York, I actually bought a boom handle from a mic. So the mic booms that sound guys carry. I got one of those that's 9 feet long, so 3 meters.
Wow.
And you put the camera on the end of it.
And they're nice, and it moves nice and smoothly because it's got weights on and it's got different things like that. And
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can just use the boom itself and walk around with it, or you can put it on the stand and you can do all kinds of stuff.
Which creates even really more. Fun. So not only have you got the sort of smooth effect from the stabilization, you now have extra stabilization from in a mechanical sense, I guess. Let me just show the other flatty. I guess we're talking about flatties now. So another
VR content and 360 video, 360 imagery.
So this is me presenting. It was Raz Kaplan. He was interviewing me, or he was with me when we recorded this. So it's really just talking about views of London. It was talking about the event itself.
But you get a chance to look all around the camera.
That kind of thing. So again, these were the first videos only recently that I'd ever created. Well, flatties, the first flatties. Before that, always looking to create 360 video, 360 video or photographs. And that, let me just show you a couple of other, whilst we're talking about 360 photographs, a couple of other photographs from the Lake District. I'll just pop these in just to show you what happened. So here's another, let me just rotate this round a different way. Let me see if that, there we go. So let me remove some interesting roots just below us. We have no legs to tread on these roots, but what was quite nice about this image is there's quite interesting roots just down there. And again, I used 3 photographs: exposed for the sky, exposed for kind of the ground here, and just combine them. It was an interesting way to represent what was a fairly dull and uninspiring sky, uninspiring day, really, and it really, the nice flat light does allow some of the colour to come out. You look over here with the green.
So I know that we're south of Scotland right now, but if you look right out there, I think that's Nessie. You think, literally, I'm not even kidding.
You think Nessie might have moved home?
Out over the water. What are those little ridges that are out there?
You mean here? Just here. There's some here.
I can't see what you're looking at on that one. But
okay. I can
turn the camera around.
yes.
Way,
okay. Now we
and
can.
then I can point it here.
Yeah, yeah. Look at look at that. Look at that.
Right there.
Yeah, yeah. That could easily be. I think you've gone to something there, Jim.
The only reason you caught that was because it was shot in 360. You weren't aiming to get it, but you got it.
Yeah.
So this is the amazing thing about when you shoot in 360, you get things you otherwise would miss. And we just missed right there that
Nessie.
Nessie's actually relocated down here.
Down to Keswick.
Yeah, Nessie's down there.
Down to Keswick.
Yep.
Keswick in the lake.
This is what's happening. That's why they can't find.
Yeah. So again, interesting what happens when you look in the other way. So who knows? Who knew? Who knows? Great. All right, let's see
what else you got.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just bring the table back. We got.
I love these trees. These trees look great.
Yeah. Again, with the different exposures, it comes out nice. It really does bring a level of detail out. Just quickly, another one from here, just showing a little bit more detail in a slightly different place. So now we got the chair. So again, just a second shot here. Let me just check. Can we still see Loch Ness? Can we still see Nessie? No, there's some birds now. There's some birds going on. I think maybe Nessie's moved over here somewhere. So, okay. So there's that one, and
I think there's something to that.
Let me just show you a couple from Barcelona. So now we're in Barcelona. This is my trip. This is the pre-Lamborghini days. So there I am. Let me just flip this round. So here we are playing chess. Let's just
take this table off. There we go.
Playing chess just there. So giant chess pieces. And bring it around.
So it would be a really fun thing to do. I don't know if we could do this. What if we did a live streaming 360 of a chessboard where we let the viewers choose the moves? How fun would that be?
Yeah. That would be
Might take a while to get the whole thing organized and done, but that would be kind of fun.
So on Facebook Spaces, I guess you could, if you bring the table back in, you could have some little pieces here, and people could send messages. Is that what you were meaning?
Yeah.
Live on Facebook Spaces, a live chess game.
Yeah, a live chess game where people can see the whole board, and then we would just use the messenger for people to put in the
moves
points of where we want to be.
Do you know what this is perfect
so we can
for?
go through and label all these.
Remember Star Wars Episode 4, the very first one, where they're playing the chess game? What we need Facebook Spaces, what we need Facebook to do is build some little animated creatures, and then we've got our very own Star Wars chess game. There.
Pretty much guarantee you it's probably already in the works. Somebody has to be doing that.
Somewhere. They've got Vader Immortal. Have you tried Vader Immortal on the Oculus Quest? Have you tried? I haven't tried.
I have not yet.
I think it's available for Rift as well. I don't know about Vive. You're on a HTC Vive, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, but, I'm a Vive guy, and I was gonna get. I haven't gotten my new Oculus Quest yet, but I do want to get that, but I understand you can't use Quest in Spaces, so I'm a little torn.
Tricky,
anyway.
Yeah, it is tricky. And okay. So that's that one. And I think there's another one from here as well. So again, we're now by the fountain. So again, the same technique. Exposed for the sky, exposed for these walls here. And you're really bringing out some nice colors. Let's just flip around here for a
So you're going to absolutely love this new features that we have coming out. Actually, they're coming out. They launched yesterday or the day before.
I think
so. There's a new version of firmware.
I think I know what you're going to say.
And software.
I know what you're going to say, and I am going to love it.
Both manual controls.
Yep.
That's number one.
Yep, love it.
And also raw DNG file formats.
That makes
so
me
you
very
can then
happy.
Work with raw data, which even has more dynamic range than JPEGs. And then if you really want to get crazy and use multiple DNGs to do what you do, I think you're going to be blown away.
Indeed. DNGs make me very happy to have uncompressed.
Yeah.
It's the uncompressed raw data from the camera, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, so we adopted what's called Adobe DNG,
Yes.
and DNG stands for digital negative.
Yep.
And basically, it is all of the digital information that the image sensor sees before any processing. So whenever you make a JPEG or a TIFF file, doesn't matter, any other file format other than a RAW, you debay. It's called debay, or I don't want to confuse everything, but an image sensor has got red, green, and blue pixels
Yep.
on it, and then they get debayered and turned into usable colors.
Yep.
And in that conversion, you can lose some detail.
Absolutely.
But if you do a raw DNG, which is that raw negative, it's everything that the sensor is seeing in its original form. So then you can apply multiple types of corrections to that if you don't like the results, which ultimately allows you to get better results.
Yeah.
So that's a big win.
And certainly if you've got the Adobe Creative Cloud, if you put it into Camera Raw, you then have raw data to work with. You can manipulate the image a whole lot more, push the boundaries. Really, you've got a lot more data to work with, and you're less likely to get blown out areas, or you can fix those more easily. It's a lot more adaptable, and certainly taking raw images into Camera Raw, it's as good as it gets. So you're dealing with the best quality images from the camera, and that's always a great place to start.
Yeah. Now, for all of our viewers who are running out today and buying the camera, not buying, but trying to use the feature, yes, we can make DNGs. Yes, there's a workflow. However, we're still a week or two away, maybe 3 weeks away from actually having the best stitching option within our software.
Okay.
But rather than waiting, we went ahead and released the opportunity to make DNGs. Yep. You can go into Adobe, you can pull that into other third-party software to do stitching and stuff like that and use it today. But we're also updating the Views Studio software so that we can bring in and get a lot of those tools directly in the software, and then you have a final stitched video coming out the back as opposed to the fisheye. So
yes, I would like
not to sound too technical, but just be ready for that.
Yeah, I would like to point out I wasn't assuming that the stitching could be done in Camera Raw, because you're absolutely right. It does come out as two separate fisheye lenses, the output from the camera. So until you get the new software updates in place, but certainly Adobe Camera Raw is just great for that kind of thing. So let me ask you a question. Does that mean that you will still be able to keep a DNG as a DNG when you export from the Humanize VR Studio, or does it have to be converted to a JPEG at that point?
So the easiest thing for us to do, and what you're going to see first, is an option to either do a JPEG or an uncompressed TIFF.
Okay.
So this way you can keep all 16-bit of data, although technically the camera is a 14-bit camera. It's not a 16-bit camera.
Okay.
But we'll work on keeping that and maintaining it as a uncompressed TIFF file, so you have all of the data that you can work with.
Well, that's great.
But we will have done the initial conversions. Okay. What we're trying to figure out right now, and not to get too nerdy on everybody on this whole thing, is how can we stitch DNG and before it becomes delayered, and anyway, all kinds of funky stuff. But we got a lot of really, really smart guys that are working on it, and know that the image quality of this camera just continues to spike.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is I've been using JPEGs. I've got good results from JPEGs. DNG, I would probably still use the same technique. If the quality can just be raised and then raised, it's great. I'm already happy. So it just means I've got even more options. I've got even more data to play with. Colors are less likely to, or whites are less likely to get blown out. I can kind of reduce, the intensity of some areas, highlights, and deal with shadows, because shadows are a big issue because you've got less data to play with in the shadows, and that's where you get a lot of pixelation. So for me, that's great news. To reduce and make those things slightly more easy to deal with is great.
Absolutely. So, some people say, well, why are you spending so much time pushing this image quality components? Mobile phones are small, it's hard to see. But we see more and more photographers who want to either make prints or make additional art. And quite frankly, for me, I'm a purist. I like to get the very best image quality. But there's another reason. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, if you're okay with it, is I want to talk a little bit about Brumix and like some really cool stuff on how to use VR and 360 content.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, when you mentioned Brumix, I visited them. They are based in Barcelona, and there are.
Oh, they are.
They,
In that building, by chance?
not in this building. I think this is the. Is this the library? I think this is the library. I'm not very good on my geography. It's an important building in Barcelona, but these guys are a little way out, but they are fairly central, and they're relatively young sort of startup company. But they've sold a whole series of what they call their MK360 player. And let me just. I think it might be worth. I have some video. I think it might be worth taking a look at their promotional video.
Yeah, let's throw a video
for their player. Let's just check.
Now, this has audio, right? So this should play back. So we should just be quiet.
Yeah. Let me just get this. Here we go. So let's just get that back. Let's just pause this on there. Let's just fast forward a little bit. 10. Right, so they have created, Brumex essentially have created a product that will beam, project 360 content onto a series of, well, walls. So you have to be in a room, and it will actually project 360 content onto the walls. And in addition to that, they also have, for things like hotels and different places, they have a bed that will also move. So if what they were demonstrating was simulating movement of the sea, so the bed kind of moves, and you got sea all around you, and it was quite it was an impressive experience. But not only that, I think they called it olfactory. Is it olfactory, where you sense a smell? I think it's called olfactory in ergonomics terms. And it will emit. They have a scent emitter. So when you're bobbing along on the sea, you actually smell the sea as well. So you have the sky, you have the sea all around you, and this projector will. Let's just see if we can get the full. There we go. So you've got the single lens here, and you've got built-in speaker, which I think is this area, and then you've got the tweeter there, and I think it's on a stand as well. You should be able to see. There you go. So there's the MK Player 360. I said 360 Player before. I think it says at the side there, MK Player 360. And this is what Brumex have been working on. So when I went to them, I'll be honest, when I went to them, I thought they were content creators. So I saw there, and I saw their stuff, and I thought, oh, they got a lot of interesting stuff on their site. No, these guys create this product. And what was really interesting for me as a content creator was that it provides a great opportunity. And they were interested in me becoming a content creator for them, not only in 360 video and related, but also ambisonics. And just to talk about ambisonics for a second, just briefly, the definition is if you've ever seen a YouTube video where the audio in 360, as you move around, the audio actually changes to the orientation. So if you're looking at a speaker that's emitting audio on one part of the video, as you move around, that could be a mouse scroll onto YouTube, or it could be you're immersed in the environment, the audio actually changes to make it appear as if sound as if the audio is coming from that item or that object itself. So that's ambisonics, that the kind of movement that goes with immersive experiences of the audio. So it sounds like objects are actually emitting the audio that they would look like they're emitting, if that makes sense. Do you think that's a fair description?
Yeah. No, I think it does make a really good description. The way that I always try to explain it is, if you've ever been to a planetarium or something like a big dome, right? That first order ambisonics, because there's many different layers of ambisonics, right? But first order ambisonics is like pinning the sounds around in that auditorium, and you can tell directionally where they're coming from. So if I'm in a headset and I turn around and move my head, the sound moves with that, so I can still tell where it's coming from. What's interesting for me is ambisonics in a still room, right, is going to be like spatial 3D audio inside the room together with the video. Absolutely. Should sound absolutely amazing.
So these guys are catering for every sense: the visual, the olfactory, and I better make sure I get the right definition there, but the sense of smell, actual movement of items that you may be sitting on, and the audio as well. So literally as you move the video, because as you may have seen on the video, there's an app. So you have an app, and you can actually control what part of the 360 video you're looking at from the app, and that will connect directly.
So you're controlling almost like a touch panel.
Yes.
Where you can, right? It becomes your control interface.
So when you're doing that, as you rotate the video around, also the audio orientation will change as well. And that's where the ambisonics come in. So they are developing audio systems with manufacturers at the moment to do that.
So I can think of so many different amazing things for this. I've been doing some work very on the practical side of things in medical and healthcare, and Alzheimer patients, and being able to de-escalate patients. So imagine if you're in a care facility and one of your residents becomes disoriented or confused or something. You could actually put them back into a familiar space. You could project their old home or the neighborhood they grew up in, or something that would help give comfort to them, and without having to put on a headset, right? Just basically convert their entire room to something. I love this technology. I love the fact that you're involved with it, and hopefully you can keep spending time with us and teaching us more and more about
let you know how
what
things
this
go.
company's doing. Absolutely.
So they were great guys to talk to, and there were several ways that I will be. We planned on connecting, certainly content creation and the ambisonics, and they have a great product. I think I described it as Christmas for content creators. Christmas for 360 content creators. It does provide a different angle. It provides a different sort of use and a different experience for people creating 360 video. So it was great to meet them.
Well, we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about group viewing. We've talked a lot about not maybe just you and I, but just as an industry, right? What we also refer to as a dome experience, where you can come into a dome and you can do group viewing and stuff. What I really like about this concept is that you can take an individual space and convert it into something without having to go through the cost of, building an entire structure. And if the beamer's bright enough in there, or the bulbs are bright enough and stuff like that, like it's going to just basically dress that entire room in the full spherical world. Should be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was in that room and I experienced all the different things. I mean, they got ambient lighting as well that goes with it, and that's programmed and reflects what you're actually viewing as well, or assists. I mean, they have PCs. I don't know if you've ever seen a PC or a TV that will, artificial intelligence will light up the background to kind of suit. Also, I think on PCs, the games that you're playing and the environments that you're playing in. So it's, I guess similar technology. Right. Let me just shut this down. I think I'm gonna. Right. Okay. So. That's BroomX, so broomx.com. And as I say, it was great to meet those guys.
Nice. Well, we can put a link down below here to broomx.com, and people can learn more about that. Simco.co.uk. Make sure you follow what Peter's doing and his work. What I really like about working with Peter is that he's willing to share what he's done, kind of his successes, some of his challenges along the way. And having that resource for individuals to learn is so important for our industry. So, my hat's off to you. Well, if I had a hat, at least I still have some hair. It's going away though.
I think, I don't know if you can have hats in Facebook Spaces, but yeah.
No, but that would be a nice thing to have, right?
Yeah,
have a hat.
absolutely.
At least I have glasses. So that's
tell you what you can
that's
do.
helpful.
You could make a hat using the pen tool, because remember, you can stick things to your face.
That's true. That's true. I don't.
I'm causing
have
a
any idea what that
distraction.
would look like.
I'm causing a distraction from one, your compliments, and two, your overall message. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, that's great. So we've had, I think, 3 or 4 of these sessions so far. And here's what I really want to encourage our viewers to watch. If you stayed here to the end, which I think is fantastic, thank you. Please, please, please make sure you hit subscribe, follow us. But more importantly, put your comments down below on what you want to learn, what we want to talk about, how we can get better at providing tools to help you. Right now, we've kind of started at this very top level, kind of big picture. Here's the things that we're doing. But I think both of us are willing to and can get all the way down to the gory details, or we can even step back even further and talk big picture beyond what's possible today, like what may be possible in the future. Yeah. So we'll leave it up to you to help steer that conversation. But Peter, do you have anything else you want to add today?
No, I think I think I've been showing and telling. I mean, I'll tell you what we haven't shown. The video I made as part of Views of London, where I'm traveling around the cafe. Let me just show you one other thing that I made whilst I was down.
That's
do you want to see this one? Okay, there's a bit of audio with this as well. So let's pop this in. So this was made, just to give a bit of background. So there was a challenge. We all got challenged to go out and find interesting places to show content or to create content. So I was spending time with a couple of Views guys, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to find a cafe that will let me put the Views XR on a tray and get a waiter or waitress to carry that tray around and then see what it looks like. So went into this pizza place just off Carnaby Street and created this short video. So I think should we play out with this?
Yeah.
And then wave goodbye. So okay.
Well, before you
on the next table. Put it on the wrong table. Okay, there you go. Shameless promo at the end there. So let me just get that off there. So yeah,
well done. And I have to say, I didn't see him spill any water, so that was good.
It was good.
Again, it's just another example of like the really fun exploration you can do in virtual reality and in 360 video, and the creation of flatties where you can take and record everything around you and make a traditional 2D flat video out of it. So Peter, as always, it's a pleasure seeing you and spending time with you in Spaces. So we will come back again.
Does this work? It kind of works. It's sort of, I don't know. I've never.
It kind of does.
I don't know. I don't know about this.
I got a thumb up. Who knows? Anyway, I think it's really good. Until next time, I'm Jim Malcolm with Humanized Technologies. And
I'm Pete Simcoe, freelance designer, video producer, and photographer. Remember all three.
Wow. Hey, that sounds really good. All right. Bye for now. We'll see you in
Bye.
another week or two.